7 shark species on the Convention on Marine, the Convention for Migratory Species. There's a separate MOU on including the whale shark. It is friendly. It is especially people friendly. It only eats little things like plankton, so it's quite safe to be near a whale shark. This is what we find when we work with connectivity, tagging, for example, whale sharks. This is a route that we have tagged all this modern technology that scientists have now, showing where one whale shark, we call her the real lady, feeds up here in the Yucatan, and her route all the way down to where she gives birth. And this has happened more than once. We know that this seems to be a regular connectivity route. So we have national issues, we have law of the sea, exclusive economic zone issues. As we get down here, we may have some high seas issues, and then we move into maybe again another exclusive economic zone. So we need, in terms of connectivity in marine environments, we need to think large scale. We need to think integrated coastal and ocean management with special governance needs, spatial planning, and ocean zoning. Key messages, almost done. I think the most important message I'd like to pass on from the work that we did is that there are many legal tools in our toolbox in the national level or subnational level. I just highlighted and named some of these, but the content of these can work very well in our favor to help incorporate connectivity requirements. From our point of view, we need to begin using these tools. Development is pressing, human impact is growing, climate change is increasingly having impacts and more uncertainty. We need to begin now before we lose some of these areas. Of course, we need science-based decision making. We need to include incentives because increasingly the lands and connectivity will be in private ownership or community and indigenous people control, or maybe under NGO ownership. So these parties need incentives to be attracted to work on conservation, including connectivity conservation. Some special challenges I really feel integrating connectivity into land use. These are going to be mergers of two very different kinds of philosophies and also institutional mandates right now. Hopefully that will become better. Harmonizing law across many sectors and levels, huge challenge. And collaboration on the ground, which is how we're going to make it happen. I wanted to acknowledge all of my colleagues that worked on the paper. I sort of specialized, I did put it all together and specialized in the conservation area. David Carrier, a fellow lawyer from Australia, who focused on common law land use. Jonathan Verschuren from the Netherlands, civil law land use. Antonio Lavina from the Philippines, who's an expert and is, I think, the chair of the working group on RED Plus, providing the climate change and the benefits section. Ari Schubos from the Netherlands, international and regional law, and Charles Superfine from Belgium, who's a specialist in EU law, and of course, our kind of colleague, Francois Hernandez. Thank you.
From conventions to policy to law, we're starting to get down now into practical applications and how that's applied across the world. I'd like to now invite Olivier. Olivier Chasleau is now going to talk through work on international connectivity and conservation, a network that Olivier launched yesterday, April 4th. Thank you, Olivier.
It was up there. It was up there. It was what you gave me. There. Third one.
Thank you, Ian. And it's a pleasure for me to be able to report a little bit about the launch of this new initiative by the World Commission on Protected Areas a few days ago, and to tell you a little bit more about that initiative, and of course to invite you to join it. So the International Connectivity Conservation Network, the ICCN, is a WCTA voluntary network of individuals and organizations interested in working in larger terrestrial and marine landscapes. It is mainly about providing a platform, a space for many managers and practitioners to share knowledge and also to offer assessment whenever it's needed. So our objectives are to develop an exchange network of connectivity conservation managers and researchers, and also to promote a greater awareness of the values of connectivity conservation across landscapes among the international community of governments, environmental NGOs, donors, and the general public, especially on the light of climate change mitigation and adaptation. We aim at helping out IUCN in any means possible through the Commission mainly to promote the connectivity conservation agenda around the world, supporting the countries whenever they need assistance in the implementation of Article 11 of the CBD, and also facilitating the training of students, managers, practitioners, and any professional interested in connectivity conservation through online information, workshops, seminars, and academic programs whenever we have a space for it. So the ICCN has the contribution of a wonderful human team. They're all stars in connectivity conservation. We have people such as Ian Walker from Australia. Of course, Graham Warboys, our boss, is the real boss behind us, of course. Robert Keynes, Bernard Herrera, and many people that act as focal points in their own regions. So most of them are members of the WCTA Commission. They're also members of the Transboundary Specialist Group, and they have a huge experience in bringing their inputs into that new international connectivity conservation network. We're still looking for someone from South America, so if you have any suggestions, I'll be happy to take them to include a new element from South America. The real reason for the network is a very simple argument. We think that connectivity conservation represents a wonderful opportunity to address the challenges of global change. And I think that within IUCN, this is a really cross-cutting issue that is highly relevant for our one program. And it just lies at the very heart of natural solutions concept that we've been pushing during the last decade. So of course, the concept, as we've seen in the first presentations, is widely recognized by the IUCN, the commissions, the secretariats, most of their members working connectivity conservation in their own countries. The IPCC, of course, the CBD, as we've seen with Charles, and many governments and regions throughout the world. And of course, many of our big NGOs now are channeling funding towards those connectivity conservation area or towards connectivity-oriented programs or projects on the ground. So the membership is very cheap. It's open to everyone. You don't have to pay anything. So please consider joining us. You don't have to be a member of any of the commissions. So if you have a keen interest in connectivity conservation, you're more than welcome to join us and to be part of these new adventures. We're working very much on our communication, especially through Linda McMillan, developing a website that is almost up to date right now. This is connectivityconservation.net. And of course, we're using all those very quick and useful tools such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and many other social media. We have a blog, it's called Reconnections, where we hope that with the inputs of the members of the network, we will be able to share stories about connectivity conservation on the ground and everything. And of course, many of the news generated by the ICCN will be featured in Update, the Mountain newsletter that Larry Hamilton is editing. So some of the activities that we would like to work on right now are, of course, the development of our membership. As many people as we are, the best, of course, we need different experiences, we need different focuses and different ways to think conservation connectivity. We would like to establish a connectivity conservation award that will be given out every year in global meetings to champions of connectivity conservation that deserves the prize, of course. We start a strategic planning phase, but of course Charles has done a great job with the CBD and UNEP in producing many useful information that we will readily integrate into our work and prioritize some of the actions. And we would like to gather some field stories and study cases that you know and you've been working in your different countries so that we can feature them and have a much richer overview of those connectivity conservation, and of course thinking in terms of systematizing the information and having some nice publications that would be useful for connectivity conservation practitioners. We will also translate the basic information into different languages, Spanish, French, and Russian for a start, and any other one if we find people that would like to help us. The ICCN is truly cross-cutting, as I said before, and sometimes I just get very scared because I think that its potential is so big that we have to be careful in not overlapping, of course, with the other special task force groups or commissions, working groups. But I think that we really have a strong connection with the other commissions, all of them, the SSC, the CEN, all of them, of course, have something to do with connectivity conservation. We really would like to contribute to the CBD plan for protected areas in the countries of their implementation, and of course keep on streamlining connectivity conservation into global events where I realize sometimes that the very concept of connectivity conservation is not always understood the same way by different people, of course. So we have potential for next meetings during the next few years. There will be a regional corridor symposium in Panama next week, but also the idea of organizing a symposium on the short course of the ICCB, the Society for Conservation Biology, next year in Baltimore, maybe the Asian Park Congress in Japan next year. The Wildline in Salamanca would be a great opportunity to tackle the subject, and of course our next World Parks Congress in Sydney. And finally, we have a very nice motion on the table for the members to be supported. So if you like to consider it, that's motion number 73. It's called Enhancing Connectivity Conservation through international networking of best practice management. It has a lot to do with that network specifically, but also with keeping on pushing the agenda of connectivity conservation. So thank you very much, and please consider joining us.
Thank you, Olivier, and I congratulate Olivier on his work in establishing the International Connectivity Conservation Network, and I encourage people here to join and share in the work that Olivier is undertaking, but also to promote that work further afield and encourage others to join the International Connectivity Conservation Network. I'd now like to introduce a fellow Australian, Graham Warboys. Graham's going to take us on a journey of connectivity conservation at the continental level in the Australian context. So, Graham, thank you.
Thanks very much. It's good to be here, and I think there was music playing with all of those presentations because they all sounded really good. And it's great work to see all this happening. 2012 was a good year in many respects in Australia. with the launch in March 2012 of a draft strategy for national wildlife corridors. This is a first for a continent on planet Earth where, and I guess Australia has an advantage because there is one nation for an entire continent. But basically, the national wildlife corridors recognise the draft plan recognises a series of corridors that help conserve the biodiversity of our country and our continent. Australia is the smallest continent on Earth. It's also the largest island. And you can see some of the comparative sizes for the area of Australia. It is a very large area. It is also a biodiversity-rich country. It's a mega biodiverse area, and we have in our country the responsibility of looking after 7 to 10% of the species on our planet. You can see also on this diagram that the richness of the biodiversity is actually not even across the country. There are some areas which are richer than others, and we have biodiversity hotspots, and these need especially looking after in terms of our protected area system. And this is the latest data that you can off the web that basically recognises both marine and terrestrial conservation through the reserve system. Something like 13.4% of the terrestrial area of Australia is conserved. But you can see also, if we go back to this diagram,